having some clarity into what success looks like for you, right? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Just saying, I want to be top of mind for, when someone's coming to visit our market, that's a very vague
Very.
answer. So if there's is very helpful for you to understand what metrics you're trying to hit and kind of it could be a reach. Those are often really good, right? You want a little bit of a reach goal, but have a metric or two that you have identified that you can measure that you want to achieve before talking to an agency.
Hello, Bombshell. Welcome or welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Hurdle, and I am your host at the Bombshell Business Podcast for one more season. This is the second episode, I think, in the new season. Maybe the third. Was it the third? Can't remember. Anyways, I'm doing these intros separate from the interviews, which I've done a bit ago. And so I'm a little mixed up. But here's what I want you to know. I'm not going away. And I so appreciate the emails and the direct messages that I've been getting saying like, oh, because this has been a journey together. This has been an amazing journey together. And if you didn't catch the news that we're wrapping this particular podcast up, it's just simply because like where your attention goes, like the energy flows, and my energy resources, everything needs to be going in a different direction right now. It has nothing to do with I don't believe in bombshell or anything. Like we're all bombshells together, right? And my bombshell boys, special shout out to especially one of my favorite bombshell boys, Tom Goodwin. And so many of you who it's actually been funny how many men have reached out to me as per usual saying like, oh, what a bummer. But I just want you to know, like, hey, go follow me on YouTube because that's where I will be focusing my effort in the near future, like Q4 towards the end of the year. And then the other thing that you can do is go to amberhurdle.com/newsletter. And I know it's like so lame to be like, sign up for my newsletter. Who wants to have one more email in their inbox? But not patting myself on the back, but I work really, really hard to provide actual value that you go, oh, I'm going to learn something this week, or this is going to help me get something done this week. I don't want to be just more fluff, like whatever in your inbox. And so again, not to pat myself on the back, but the feedback I've gotten from the newsletter since I switched formats was like, this is one that I actually look forward to every week. And I'm not spammy. I'm not going to try to sell you on everybody else's junk. Like that's just not what I do. So I would love for you to follow me on YouTube. Link will be in the show notes, amberhurdle.com/podcast with an S at the end. And also, the other way to just stay in touch with me and know what's going on is to sign up to get those updates every week. So I got a little blah blah at the beginning of whatever craziness happened in my week or some opinion I might have. And then I break things into a personal brand tip, an employer brand tip, and a business brand tip. And they're specific and actionable. So I hope you'll do that with me now to talk about today's fantastic guest. Oh my gosh, I had a total girl crush on her. You know, I do that on this show quite often because we don't let people pass the gate who aren't going to serve you. And Kylie is going to serve you. So Kylie Kullack, the head of client engagement at Struck, is a dynamic leader in the realm of brand transformation. Woo-hoo. Her extensive experience spans diverse sectors, including destination marketing, outdoor recreation, and biotechnology. Known for her strategic acumen and problem-solving prowess, Kylie consistently empowers her teams to achieve exceptional results. Her impressive portfolio features collaborations with esteemed clients such as the Utah Office of Tourism, which we will get into that as a case study, Snowbird, Westminster College, and Alta Bank. Kylie's experience extends across traditional and digital marketing communications, where she has seamlessly orchestrated campaigns in collaboration with various agency partners, including creative, public relations, promotion, social media, and event activation teams. Outside her professional pursuits, she's an active member of Chief, a leading network of female executives revolutionizing the industry. Kylie's true joy lies in her role as a parent, cherishing family moments and exploring the vibrant local culinary scene. So let me just drop it like this. She is a branding bad mama jamma. And the way that she tackles destination marketing, and I know so many of you who are listeners are in travel, in hospitality, hotel, vacation rental, ancillary services, or maybe that you're a local business in a destination market. Like you need to hear these things. And even if you are none of the above, this is going to show you how specific you can get with your branding and your marketing if you know your customer and you know what drives their behavior. So I think it's going to be a great episode no matter where you are in the marketing mix of things. And I just hope you enjoy it in the conversation as much as I did. Here we go. Welcome to the show, Kylie.
Thanks for having me, Amber. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. So again, we're in this so many worlds that I love. Destination marketing, travel, collaboration. You just live in this space, branding obviously, where I can stay all week. So you're going to have to like keep me to this time frame that we're in. But before we even dive into the tactics, which my audience loves, like tell me how to do the things, right?
Sure.
I want to know, how did you even get into like the space that you're in? How did you find your way into branding and marketing, and then especially niching it down into destination marketing and tourism?
Sure, absolutely. So I have always had a creative mind, but I am not a creative in terms of the talent and the skill that a lot of creatives have. I have deep interest in the strategy and the how of how we solve problems, and I love problem solving. And at the end of the day, what we do at Struck and other creative organizations is working with our partners to help them solve a problem, right? And it's creative solutions to helping them solve that problem. I've always been interested in the agency world and was in the Manhattan agency scene for about 10 years. And my husband and I needed a change of scenery and moved out to Park City, Utah, and have been here for about 13 years.
That's a
And
change.
it's a change, and we still get asked if we're coming back, and we love to visit, but there is a real appreciation for work-life balance here that I refuse to give up. So,
Yeah. I think every bombshell listening will be like, here, here.
and
My
so Struck.
sister lives
Oh, go
in
ahead.
Utah. Yeah.
Sure.
So she's outside of Park City.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful place, and I think we're also really well positioned for some serious growth. We've seen some serious growth. We have some
Yeah.
incredible opportunities with the Olympics coming back. And we've just got some incredible talent within this market. And I've been at Struck since the very beginning, since we've been here. And previously, we kind of worked with a lot of different industries and really found that our niche was kind of destination marketing, inspiring folks, but then also getting them all the way down the funnel to actually coming and experiencing the experiences that we were promoting, whether that was in Monterey or in Utah, Scottsdale. And it's really finding that niche of what makes the destination or the brand unique, right? And then kind of uncovering it and shining it, and then making sure that we had a really creative approach on how to communicate that to our audiences.
Yeah. Well, let's break that down a little bit because I know a lot of my listeners. Raise your hand if you're listening and you're in the vacation rental space. Raise your hand if you're in the vacation rental space and you're outside of or in Salt Lake City, Utah, because they're here. They're here right with us right now. So, what is it that differentiates a destination marketing, like very specifically destination marketing versus doing things a little more on the traditional side of things? Like what makes your strategies different than just like if I went carte blanche to someone who didn't specialize in destination marketing?
Sure. So I think one of the key things and that makes Struck an expert within the space is a destination, a vacation rental company. You have to have a strong brand, and you have to understand what it is that you do that others don't, or that you do better than everyone else. And what is that differentiating factor? That differentiating factor is then what's going to then fuel what it is that you then your strategies on how you're going to communicate to your audiences. I would say the destination folk piece is that we also think all the way through the funnel, right? So we need to
Sure.
first, I mean, I think a good case study was our work with the state of Utah. We've been working with them for the last 18 years and literally put them on the map. And to the point at which now we're having more discussions about responsible visitation and ensuring that you're coming when the season is right, or you're respecting the nature or the communities that are
So important.
overrun with tourists, which is great. It's a great problem to have, but it's ensuring that you're also getting the communities on board, and understanding the value, the destination marketing, and the ROI and the revenue that's coming into these communities, the value of that, and how to then to manage that in the future. But we will think through the entire life cycle, right? Of we need to make sure that we're first getting them into consideration set. So with the state of Utah, we created the Mighty Five. Utah, when we did a ton of research, we found that people thought our downtown was Denver and they thought our red rocks were Arizona. And so we had some work to do, right? And so in order to help drive awareness and visitation to the 5 national parks that we have within our state, we branded them the Mighty Five, right? And so that then spurred the campaign that was to inspire and show the uniqueness of the Mighty Five uh, within the various advertising channels, and ensuring that people knew to look up the Mighty Five, which is much more recognizable than just, oh, is it Bryce or Canyonlands? And that then gets them into the funnel, and then thinking through, okay, once they're online and they're searching for us, what are the key places and the messages that we need to be telling them? And then, as I mentioned, once they've booked, we need to make sure that they're aware of how to visit responsibly and make sure that it's a great trip all around. And then, of course, after the trip, during and after the trip, how do you promote the reviews, the Instagram shares, etc., to make sure that these folks are sharing their great experiences, but then also coming back for more.
So what are some of the tactics that you deployed to get that like user generated content really going? How do you get them to like post their selfies and use your hashtags and tag the places that they're in
Yeah,
proactively?
yeah. I think the biggest piece is having so for an engagement like that, there are a lot of agency partners who are at the table, right? You've got your PR team,
Sure.
you've got our team, you've got your media team, you've got your internal team, you've got your social team, and one of the best things that we did was leading by example of understanding what the entirety of the campaign messaging is, and then ensuring that all of the key partners are aware of that, and then have each of them help develop plans and tactics to help support those within their channels and what they know is going to be working. So making sure that there is a clear narrative for the overarching campaign, and then working together with all the other partners was able to ensure that everybody was going to be pulling the levers that they need to. Specifically, of course, you have your paid influencers, right? And you have your
Sure.
organic influencers too, but it's making sure that when you're briefing those folks that it's consistent and that we are communicating the same message across the various channels.
Yeah. So I love how you said working with all of the partners, internal, external, whatever. How do you propose, Kylie? Because obviously you've been doing this for a good amount of time, and if the state of Utah is a great example, man, I can attest to the fact that Utah went from here to like this shiny beacon of tourism from like that. What state is that again? It's one over there. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
The
Like,
West.
at least on my at least on our end of the country, it was just kind of like it's one of those states in that blob over there. And now it's like, oh, Salt Lake City, Utah, like dang. Um we know the value now. It's not if you live in Utah, my sister lives in Utah. I'm just telling you right now. I'm not bashing you or who you used to be. I just wasn't aware of how great you were
Yeah.
for the longest time. So how do you ensure continuity, accountability, collaboration, all, staying on the project plan? How do you do that with like you said, this person needs to know how to pull this lever and this person needs to need to push that button. That's a lot.
Well, that's what, you hire folks like us for, right? Is
Yeah.
we will be the strategic partner and the strategic lead who help bring all of the agency partners together, of course, with the client, but they also have their day jobs to do too, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a part of their day jobs, but this is what we live and breathe, right? So it's developing strategic plans at the beginning of an outset, understanding what goals we're trying to achieve and how are we going to measure them and how frequently are we going to be measuring them. Uh, Interagency kind of touch bases are very frequent, obviously, quarterly for sure, but also monthly, just in terms of performance updates, but also making sure that we're identifying the key KPIs that top three, right? Like there's so much data out there that people can go down rabbit holes, right? And if you look at
Oh,
this, and
yeah.
it's just like information overload and it's analysis paralysis, right? So we like to ensure that when we're working with our partners, that we identify the top two or three KPIs, and those are the things at the end of the day we say, was that successful or not? Of course, all the other information is very important and helpful and good to review, but we need to hold ourselves accountable because, quite frankly, there is so much data that folks often get stuck in the data and they're reporting out to boards or they're reporting out to, executive teams, and it's not clear what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that too. Is like they spend all their time like putting all of these like spreadsheets and like, charts and all kinds of stuff together. And it's like, wow, if you would have taken that time and just like went down one more channel for a little bit, like you'd have more customers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
let's just keep things simple. So how do you determine how do you all whittle it down to what your top 2 to 3 KPIs are?
Yeah. So as part of our engagement process, we have very upfront conversations with potential clients of, we're having coffee, let's say, in 3 years, and we have knocked it out of the park. What does that success look like to you, right? And
Yeah.
it commits the clients, if they want to work with us, to really put some line markers in the ground of, this is what I need to achieve. And sometimes it's a big lift, but we're happy to roll up our sleeves and get there. But we have to have clarity across the board on what it is that success looks like for them, and whether that's a monetary, a revenue, a visitation number. We just want to make sure that we have clarity in that, and then from there, if we're engaging, we are building all of our strategic plans with that metric in mind. And oftentimes we will project kind of year one, here's where we would see us netting out if we're successful. Year two is here where we see, but we're also evaluating those plans on a regular basis and making sure that if we need to adjust or course correct, we have the visibility into and the awareness that this is something that we need to do, right? And you can't just put a plan and forget it. You have to be looking at the metrics on a regular basis. And COVID, perfect example. I mean, working for destination marketing during COVID was a
Woo-hoo.
place I hope I never have to go back to,
Yeah, no kidding.
because we had weekly meetings looking at folks' sentiment. Are they willing to travel by state, right? And are they willing to travel? Yes, okay, they're willing to travel. Let's shift this messaging and this creative because they're more receptive to traveling right now. If it went, or if there was a spike in reported cases, we would pull back the messaging, right? Like, so you have to be nimble and aware of what is happening in the marketplace that's going to affect your business.
Well, that's so interesting because I spent my first 14 years in Southern California, so Valley girl, moves to the greater Nashville area for 30 years before I moved here to Florida. So like I've always been in destination
Yeah.
touristy places, right? Like that's all I know and I don't mind. I moved away from the crazy in Nashville, but I love you, Nashville. I will always love you. But like, I just had to make some space for one of y'all to breathe a little bit better with my space now gone. So, um, in Nashville in particular, and I'm really trying to ask this from like an entertainment perspective, like a restaurant perspective, a vacation rental company, a hotel, like whatever that looks like. Nashville went from really being kind of more like you had a lot of those senior tours coming through,
Mm.
and they loved going on the General Jackson showboat and they liked this way that a show was done and they like that stuff. But then, they aren't doing that as much anymore. The boomers aren't as interested in, or the younger boomers aren't as interested in what the older boomers were doing. And then you have the woo girl phenomenon. If you've ever been to Nashville, you know what that woo woo, like number one
Yeah.
bachelorette party destination in the country, number two in the world next to Tokyo. So now you've got like this massive shift of who the demographic is, like who's the visitor. What do you do when you have like a complete shift in the middle of this like multi-year projection that you're doing? Like, what's your first step other than like take the crash and land position, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating to watch Nashville's evolution and kind of the huge interest it's been generating. I'd say the biggest thing that uh, we would recommend is ensuring that you're having open dialogue with the businesses and the communities that are being impacted, right? This, right? Like you obviously want the businesses to generate the revenue that they're looking for. You want them to thrive, but it's also important to help mitigate the negative sentiment, perhaps from some of those locals, to better educate them on what the value of that revenue is in return, right? So is that additional revenue going into local parks? Is it going into affordable housing? Is it going into other amenities that previously would not be touched without that additional revenue driven by destination marketing? As
Yeah.
for the creative, I mean, I would say you've tapped out on that market. I think they're coming. They will be coming, and the enthusiasm is still there, obviously, within that generation. I think it's looking forward into who is next, what is next, and working closely with the stakeholders within that community of who is it that we want to be attracting to our destination, and how do
Yeah.
we want them to interact, and how long do we want them to interact, and how much do we want them to be spending?
Yeah. And then so how much, let's just say I'm a business that's trying to just keep up with it all, whether I mean, because there's a lot of growth in a lot of areas. I mean,
Mm,
Tampa is the same. I mean, you have so much growth in your area in Utah. Like we can talk about all these different areas. Austin and Texas has been growing and bringing in a lot of tourism for some time now. How do you, okay, so taking a step back, you're like, okay, we're growing. Here's the new crop of people. We need to get the buy-in. How do you work with like your visitors and conventions bureau or like your state department of tourism? Like, how do you plug into those resources in order to understand how to respond or even be proactive in your tactics or even your strategy, I would say?
absolutely. If you're a business, you should absolutely be part of your Chamber of Commerce. You should be attending their generally monthly meetings or quarterly meetings where they're updating the community of their plans. I would also say at the state level, all of those board meetings are open meetings and you should be attending those too, particularly getting involved in whether your community has like a tourism day on the hill, really
Yeah.
understanding who the players are and just familiarizing yourselves with the people who you need to be aware of and or the organizations that are happening. And they are all very willing to sit with you and tell, A, hear your concerns, B, understand what the opportunities are, connect you with other government entities that could be helpful. So it's really just getting involved and understanding, not only from a chamber, but also state level, what the plans are for the state or the city, and how you can help be more informed to help make plans accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where we're gathering the data then. And then you're also gathering your own data from your own efforts and like what's
Mhm.
performing, what's not, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to ask the big question, where does AI fit into all of this? How are you all using it in your
Yeah.
destination marketing?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting. I'm on the marketing committee for Destinations International, and we just had a in-depth conversation about this. And there are folks who are on the ledge. I mean, we don't use AI for any creative generation. We are a creative shop. We have the talent, and that's where we want to make sure that we're leveraging the talent. Absolutely, AI has been helpful from a mood board inspiration kind of starting
Sure.
off point, but it gets to be a very slippery slope. I mean, whereas, some of the smaller DMOs who are in the conversation said that they're using AI for all of their social posts. And I mean, if you're a two-man team,
And you
that's
can
a
read it.
huge, yeah. I mean, if you're a two-man team, that's a huge time saver, right? Or if you're working through your strategic plans, we use it more as an inspiration piece and
So
more information and research tool,
yeah.
rather than kind of a day-to-day application.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think you lose your brand voice, lose your
Mhm.
brand messaging when I mean, I can just my joke is every company using AI, and I'm being exaggerative, of course, but every company using AI in their social media has told us that they're soaring to new heights. Like
Yes.
there's just certain phrases, right? That like, your chat GPT is showing. So like you, no judgment that you're using it. I use it for the same thing, like research, show me those sources, like where are we, like asking questions around like the biggest concerns of this subgroup or
Yeah.
whatever. But I'm happy to hear you also say, like, work with actually creative-minded people that can, like, use their soul and emotional. I like to do
Yeah.
emotional-based branding, so hard for ChatGPT to really
Yeah. Yeah.
make
I
that
mean,
happen.
there's a real talent in developing emotion-based creative, right? You have to have the insight. You have to really understand the audience. You have to have a clear goal for what action it is that you're looking for someone to do. And we're not there yet from a chat GPT perspective.
No, no. I kinda want it to, like, do my laundry and make my coffee and, like, change the bedding on my bed. I don't really want it to be creative for me or write anything. Like, I wanna do those parts. You do the other stuff, you
Yeah.
know? Let
The
me get there yet. Where's my
Yes.
robot? So on that note, it sounds like so you've already given like so much great information of like how like what do we need to do? Can you give us just maybe a few examples or things to watch out for based on your work with different organizations over the years? Like these are the like don't do these things. They're going to get you in trouble.
Don't do these things is actually going to start with a do and have a
Okay.
strong strategic plan
Yeah.
and a strategic roadmap. The so many issues arise from various stakeholders who have often very loud voices. Is why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And it's very reactive, and you're trying to put out fires from these individuals who are wanting certain tactical things to happen. If you have a strategic plan, even if it's just an annual plan, this is the goal, this is the strategy, these are the efforts that we're focusing on, that helps defer some of those requests of kind of, we must focus on this and pivoting and kind of
Yeah.
putting out fires rather than moving forward on a strategic plan, right? And you have the
Oh, girl.
the documentation to support it, right?
Yes. So my other company, Employer Brand Central, is 100% employer branding. Like it is, we don't get, obviously that impacts the business brand in
Yeah.
a significant way, let alone the bottom line. But it's the same thing. It's like, oh, well, we had to let go of this person and then this happened. It's like, that's fantastic. And, we can address that. However, this is the plan that we're working. And if you don't work this plan, then in August, you're caught with your pants down. No matter what's happening over here right now that we want to respond to so desperately. Like, let's
Right.
just stay on plan. Let's just keep moving proactively towards what we want to have happen as opposed to reacting and hoping for the best, right? I mean,
Right.
we thought this through in the clear mind with no chaos.
Right.
Let's stay.
Stay in the course.
Yeah.
And I think, to that point, it's clear articulation or communication of that plan so that it even mitigates, well, what are you guys doing? What are you doing about this? And it's, no, here it is. Here's our plan. You can share it on our website. You can ask us about it, but having transparency into what the organization is focused on and all aligned from an internal and external perspective is important.
Yeah. Now, what if somebody wanted to entertain working with you? So I know that there's always like concerns around cost and, blah, 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 and like the working relationship or been let down by other agencies before. I paid all this money, I got no results. Like there's so many things that come with like, when are you ready to work with an agency? What's like maybe one or two things that you think, whether they want to work with you or somebody else, like local in their market, what would you say like, get these parts right in your research and your discovery and then you're probably going to be better off working with have a great working relationship with the agency.
Yeah, I think it's having some clarity into what success looks like for you, right? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Just saying I want to be top of mind for, when someone's coming to visit our market, that's a very vague
Very.
answer. So if there's is very helpful for you to understand what metrics you're trying to hit and kind of it could be a reach. Those are often really good, right? You want a little bit of a reach goal, but have a metric or two that you have identified that you can measure that you want to achieve before talking to an agency. I'd say another thing that we like to educate our potential clients with is when you work with an agency, you are trusting the creative process and the talent that is employed there. The armchair art direction is not helpful. You really need to be wanting to work with the experts and with the track record of what they have displayed, trust the process that they are the right partner for you through your evaluation process. Because particularly founders, obviously it's their brand, it's their destination, it's their um, company, but it is really important to understand for growth, you have to be able to let it go a little bit for it to evolve to that next phase.
So true. So, so true. I love your answers. I love them. Okay, so we've covered like what is destination marketing? What do we need to pay attention to in destination marketing? Well, what does that look like if I'm not trying to market to a destination? What are those, things that are transferable in this conversation? Like what not to do, what you should look for, and I think we have covered an immense amount of space in our short time together. So first of all, thank you for that and for lending your brilliance.
Absolutely.
Um, before we go into how people can find you, work with you, all that good jazz, I've got to ask my final question. And that is, what parting piece of advice would you offer to a bombshell, a bold, brave, unwaveringly confident woman in business?
I would say that uh, learning is an ongoing process, right? And oftentimes learning can be putting yourself in uncomfortable situations or trying new things. I've found that mentoring has been a really rewarding experience, not only for me personally, but also with the young ladies that I get to mentor. And if there's the opportunity where you can mentor another rising bombshell, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I love that. You get so much. Like everybody's like, "Oh, you've mentored me." And I'm like, I get so much from so much learning, so much soul satisfaction, So great. I love that. Okay, well, we're connected. I always say go on LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn. We do business on LinkedIn. So you can
Yeah.
find Kylie on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and then also the company Struck, you can find on LinkedIn and on Twitter X. They are Struck. And then on Instagram, they are also Struck. And
Yeah.
then Kylie Kullack is who you're going to be looking for. It's Kullack when you're trying to find Kylie specifically on LinkedIn. So do you have anything? Can we put something in the show notes, like if they want to do a discovery call with you, if they want to see like, because again, I've got a huge
Yeah.
destination marketing base in my listenership. So how can they say like, hey, I want to talk to you and see what you might be able to do for us?
Absolutely. I'm the gal to talk to. So feel free to email me at struck. It's Kylie.Kullack at struck.com. And I lead all of those, new business opportunity conversations. So happy to set up some time and meet some of your fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and you can totally tell she is not high pressure. There were no hashtag booms that were created in this podcast interview. So if this is something, and remember, it's not necessarily just for like we're trying to get people to this destination, the city. Like you could have a restaurant group, you could
Mhm.
have lots of things that you are dependent on people actually arriving. Like I live in Snowbird City legitimately, so I can only imagine the value that you would bring in Venice, Florida, average age 78 years old. So thank you again for being on the show, Kylie. I can't wait to share this episode and stay connected in the future.
It was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, Bombshell, you know what to do. We talked about a lot of things, and I know that it was very specific to a certain type of marketing, but you heard things in there. You heard her branding advice was like, hey, you have to be different. You have to, Sally Hogshead says different is better than better. If you do have something that you're better at, you better figure that out too. but you have to show why you, not anybody else. And even like the examples of the oh, now I'm gonna obliterate it, but it was the five. I
The
took
mighty five.
notes.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, just having somebody that is more creative like that to even figure out the mighty five, to help you figure out those catchy things, like, is really, really important. So whether you're destination marketing or regular marketing, I hope that you will share this episode with somebody who's working on their brand, growing on their brand, and trying to figure out how to position themselves in a way that just gives them their little niche, their little piece of the pie. The pie just gets bigger the more that we help each other. So that's my request to you as you share this episode. Bring some light into another bombshells world, and I will see you on the next episode.